Hey everyone, in this video I want to go through a really cool clay trick that I recently found that's been really increasing my email response rates. So one of the things that I really wanted to do was to be able to make some kind of calculation based on kind of the size of the issue that someone is facing. And obviously this can be quite hard because you don't know all the facts about them as a business. But the way that I've done this is basically as follows. So what I want to say in the email is something like, I just kind of typed it out here. As a rough estimate, I guess that you're missing out on some kind of value to another value based on the fact you've got this number of employees. Does that sound about right to you? And again, we don't want to assume that this is right because, you know, it is obviously very like rough calculation. But what I want them to say is like, yeah, that sounds about right, or no, that sounds completely off. Like either is actually pretty good for us because at least it's getting a response from them. And it can open up the conversation. It could be like, actually, we think this is like costing us way more than that, or actually we think it's way less. So the way that I've done this is basically just take your offer and then ask it to do like a calculation of how much it costs an employer in the country you're targeting. So this one I'm just thinking about like sick days for potentially like a well-being offer. So, you know, how much does it cost the UK employee, her employee for sick days per year? So we can just ask the AI. So here it's saying, you know, roughly per year, based on kind of the average salary, lost productivity, about £1,300 per employee. But what I don't want to do is just take this like and say it's going to cost you, you know, £1,307 times the number of employees you have, because it just seems like a very specific figure. Like I'd prefer to give a range. So I've asked for like a low to high estimate of this. So kind of a low estimate is just over £500 and a higher estimate is over 3K. So you can see here, so like for a company with 100 employees, the annual cost range would be kind of 58K to 351K. I think that's probably quite a high range. So you'd maybe want to go for like median to high and then ask if that sounds about right. Or if you think like from your own industry knowledge, if you think that sounds a bit high, like the high one, maybe just go like the low to median and just try and fit like have a slightly more specific range. Otherwise it's just like, yeah, this could be costing you £10 or it could be costing you like £1,000,000. Like, you know, it's not the best messaging. So you should have some kind of range that is ideally based on your own data rather than AI data as well. So the way we can do this is if we go into Clay, what we want is to get the number of employees for the prospects that we're reaching out to. So if I take Caitlin here, works for VHR Global Technical Recruitment. They have 210 employees. So what we can do is a formula row here. So if I open this one up and just show you. So what all I've said is I'm going to, I should say multiply, not multiple, multiply the number of employees they have. And this is by 585. So this is for us to figure out the low estimate. So you see 585 per employee. Can you return it as a currency formatted number with a pound sign, commas, and no decimal places? And you can just do this as like, you can just get the kind of flat number and obviously add in like the currency within like Smart Leader instantly you're sending from. But this one does just return the full value quite nicely formatted, which is great. So this can be our kind of low end, which is great. So then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy this and I'm going to create, so we rename this to be kind of low cost. And then let's do one for the higher one. So if we go into formula, and then we're going to do kind of median. So by 1,307. 1,307. Let's generate the formula. Cool. Output looks great. Then there you go. So what we can now say is like, oh, hey, Caitlin, you know, based on, as a rough estimate, I guess you're missing out on, you know, 850,000 to 274,470 per year based on the fact that you've got 200 employees. You could say like based on the fact you've got 210 folks working at, you know, VHR. Depends how informal you want to be. Does that sound about right to you? You could say like could be totally off here as well, but I quite like asking the question because then at least you're then kind of like getting a response from people. And so I may be like, oh, that's way off, like that's not quite right. But at least you're kind of explaining your logic and you're saying like, this is a rough estimate. Does this sound about right to you? And then, you know, if you're selling a solution which is 50 grand, then obviously it's a huge saving depending on, how much it's actually costing them as a business. So you're kind of like shining a light on the issue, showing them the kind of cost of that issue and the cost of not doing anything, and then presenting your solution, which I think is quite a nice format for outbound. So yeah, so you can just export these, have these as variables, add them into your sending platform and use them. Yeah, hopefully you found that useful. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them down in the comments.